definitely recommend reading the books.
Yeah, I saw the one with Kyle MacLachlan. Which one was the David?
That's the David Lynch film.
It's 84.
The problem with the two Dune movies which is why I'm so excited about this one, and I appreciate the two Dune movies for what they were because I'm a fan of Dune, so I'll take what I can get.
Yeah,
is that they couldn't really, especially the first book. There's very important scenes that they play in both movies that they didn't really translate. Like there's a scene, the famous dinner scene in the beginning with Liet Kynes, which has so many important implications for the rest of the novel and the movie, which doesn't really come off the way that it should come off in either movie. And, those are some of the problems you'll find after reading the book, is that the movies kind of come off as hollow. But, as fans of Dune, you kind of take what you can get. You know what I mean? And so, which
hollow,
is why I'm
excited.
excited.
What do you mean hollow?
Well, because the book is there's so many things to chew on, right? It's dense. There's you could just tell it, and as a result of these movies that are coming out, like HBO has already agreed to do spin-off television series, because like there's a group in the book called the Bene Gesserit Order. Yeah. You could tell stories about the Bene Gesserits.
Bene Gesserits, yeah.
And the weirding ways and the Bene Gesserit voice and
because they're like a monk, or I should say a nun order that guides the psychic powers of the largest houses, which are like political organizations and planet-wide governments. And they basically weave in and out of the history of the universe, trying to create the next Messiah. And that's. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead.
Go on.
No, and that. Yeah, go ahead, Ish. Go ahead.
You did only jump ahead a little to add to that. So they double, right? Because they are exactly what we said, but they are and they're loyal to each house. But greater than their loyalty to each house is their loyalty to their agenda, which is like they're genetic purists on some level, right? They want to control. So at some point in the Dune series, you come to find that everybody who exists is on some level related to an Atreides, right? To the Atreides bloodline, to House Atreides on some level. And it's because they're geneticists as well. When he says none, he's right. So what they have is called the Missionara Protectiva. What they've done is they've gone throughout the universe and planted creation myths or religious stories in every culture throughout the universe so that they can protect themselves. Meaning if a member of the Bene Gesserit order finds themselves stuck on some planet, they can then rely on a creation myth that they've planted there and fulfill a prophecy in order to, gain protect. Like it's so deep. You know what I mean? They transplant memories so that every person remembers and this is a very dangerous thing, right? Because how it works out is so every member of this Bene Gesserit order has the memories of her predecessor, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth, and they can access these memories because they pass them on to each other. So their fear is becoming what is called abomination. At any given time, one of these personalities or several of these personalities could take over. And
especially because you have to realize these are women who break empires for fun. So imagine having that person plus two others in a line that's very similar to that first person in your head at all the time. It's amazing. It's amazing stuff.
There's a character who's a fascinating character who is described as she was born knowing, because she was the child of a Bene Gesserit who took a sacred ritual. She drank the water of life, while she was pregnant. She didn't know she was pregnant. So her mom was a Bene Gesserit, and in the womb, she became aware of every ancestor in her lineage. She had all of their knowledge and all of their information at birth. My favorite character in the entire series. Alia.
Yeah, the little girl who played her in the first movie scares the shit out of me to this day.
She's beautiful.
As an adult. Yeah. She is gorgeous. I've seen pictures of her. She's stunning.
She was on an episode of Walking Dead.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
But she's stunning woman.
But yeah, she's Mike, you might have seen my profile picture. It's usually this little girl dressed in black with bright blue eyes. Every once in a while, that'll be my profile picture.
I knew I liked you, Ish.
Yeah. That's Alia. It's always my favorite line. Witness my Jam Jabbar. when she goes that after Harkonnen.
Yeah.
She's
I like I like the weapon that they use where you have to use your voice to like activate
the weirding way. The weirding way.
Yeah.
That's Bene Gesserit. That's the Bene Gesserit voice. It's called the weirding way.
They basically, I guess I don't have to spoil it, but it's not a big part. But they teach.
We can't spoil Frank Herbert. We can't spoil Frank Herbert
because it's too big. It's too big.
Yeah.
The entire series is too big to spoil. But they Paul, which is the main character, and his mother, which is a Bene Gesserit matron, teach the Fremen the weirding way, and when that happens, everything goes to pot for the Empire. They start losing ground. Everything.
Yeah.
The Empire has a particularly vicious elite force called the Sardaukar.
Yeah.
Who are trained in the harshest
stormtroopers
conditions.
In space.
Yeah, and they were trained on like a planet that no one else could survive on. They're sent there specifically to train.
And if they die, well, you weren't meant for the guard.
The Fremen's advantage is that the Fremen just live in the harshest conditions.
Right.
And then they learn the weirding way.
Which is
a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, because later on in the books they like any group, like any marginalized group that gains power, you'll see people that abuse it.
Right. Which we see, you'll see. You have to read it, watch it. You'll see.
It's fascinating. It's
great
by
stuff.
far
there's a book.
Go ahead, man.
There's a book called God, Emperor of Doom, which literally speaks to what we're talking about. You know what I mean? It's literally called God, Emperor of Doom. Of Dune, excuse me.
Anyway, we should probably switch subjects.
Yeah, we could go on about Dune, and we could
forever. I have so many. I've given away so many copies of that book. It's not even funny.
Too.
Well, it seems like you need to give one more. Ish. You need to give one more to Mike. Oh, okay.
Mike's in New York City, and Mike has Waze.
Ah, the Ways and Means.
Ways and Means. I didn't know.
Mike has Waze. Yo, you have Waze. You're always watching something. I'm like, how did you watch that?
Oh,
yeah. You'll be like, I have Waze.
Yeah, FF Movies is what I'm using right now.
What site are you using?
FF Movies.
FFF Frank.
Yeah. Yep. I just watched. I finally finished Deathstroke. That was a good one.
Yeah, I'm wrapped up in some Netflix series at the moment.
Oh yeah, what are you watching? What are you watching? Umbrella?
I am.
No.
I started Umbrella myself.
Okay.
I put Umbrella on the list. I plan to watch it. I'm waiting. I'm waiting till the first week of September, so I can cram Umbrella Academy and then go right into the season 2 of The Boys.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's coming out.
Oh, The Boy. I thought you said The Voice. I was about to say The Voice. Oh,
The Boys.
Yeah. Oh, The Boys is dope. That comes out in September.
September 4th.
Oh, okay, that's a few days before my birthday.
Yeah, so I'll have two things to watch in a row that should be great. You know what I mean? So right now I'm finishing up an anime called Magi.
Okay.
And they also put the fourth season of Seven Deadly Sins on this past Thursday. So that's next on my list.
Okay. So
you know what I watched on Netflix the other day that was really good? I don't know how Transformers fan you are, but that series that they put War Cybertron is awesome.
I watched a little bit. I watched a little bit. I only watched some of the first episode, but it's worth watching. It's good.
It's worth watching. It's pretty bloody, and it explains a lot of the history between the Autobots and the Decepticons.
Okay.
What I'm discovering,
it's a lot deeper than
what I'm discovering.
People think.
What I'm discovering is a lot of people can't get past the first two episodes, and I get it. And I keep telling people, once you get past the first two episodes, everything will make sense, and you will enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a I don't know what the first episode seems like. Kind of, I don't know. Like it's like I don't know. Maybe it's just not the best dialogue, or it's a little simple or something. Right.
You know.
It's just complicated, I think, and it turns a lot of people off. They're like, "Man, I don't get what the whole point is," but then you start watching, and you're like, "Oh, that's what that is."
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, I got it. A friend of mine who's a huge obsessive. He's obsessed with Transformers.
Right.
He was turned off immediately because Prime just gets like smacked around.
Yeah, he gets his ass beat pretty hard first episode.
And a lot of people just can't digest that because it's Prime.
Right,
but then when you watch it and you realize this is an origin story.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's an origin story. So, Prime had to start off somewhere, right?
Right,
yep.
Right.
So, Mike, I definitely recommend it. Everything Raul said about it is absolutely on point.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, definitely. It's only 6 episodes.
Oh, that's it.
I saw it, but I skipped over.
It's the first part of the trilogy.
Right. There's going to be 2 more series of. I think the next one's not going to be called War for Cybertron. I think it's going to be called because this one's called Seed. The first 6 episodes. So I have a feeling that the next one's going to be called something else.
Yep.
There's another interesting show on Netflix. This show on immigration. Like
what's it called?
It's a show on immigration. It's like the big show that's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
And
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm fascinated.
Yeah, watching the preview, my Spidey senses kind of went up at first because I'm like, this looks like a gross justification for what ICE does and like for our whole way of like treating. It looks like Bad Boys. It looks like Cops. I mean, it looks like Cops on steroids. Like, but
this isn't a documentary.
It is.
Oh, okay.
But it just looks like they're justifying what they're doing. But as you get into the preview, then you start to see the people that are kind of like the lawyers trying to help these folks. And then you get a sense, okay, maybe it's not what I thought it was. And so I've heard back from people who have watched it, and they're like, no, it's not like what you initially thought. It's worth a watch. And then something about, I think ICE was actually against this show or something.
Of course.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm really intrigued.
As many people do also feel, I think ICE has been corrupted to the core. I think that what they do is necessary, but not how they do it. Is you can't. That group has been so corrupted by politicians that are basically crooked.
And we haven't always had ICE either.
No,
right?
No.
We operated
Border Patrol.
ICE for
Border
years.
Patrol used to do what ICE did, but they basically got separated and they got radicalized like any bad part of any government, and they became insular. So when somebody like Trump comes along, who his views on immigration are prehistoric.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough that ICE needs to be taken down and reformed, or just given back to Border Patrol, the duties.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're there, I'd like you to continue.
Sure. So problem is, okay, the problem with immigration in America is that a lot of people don't understand that our economy works on new people coming in all the time. And this goes from both a point of low skill workers and high skill workers. We used to attract a lot of both. And now, because of policies put in place by this administration and others, he's not alone in it. Basically, the high skill workers want to avoid us like the plague because of the overt racism, the treatment like criminals of people coming into the country to actually immigrate and make a life here. So I think that the policy needs to be reworked completely. And I'm hoping that with a new administration, they'll put some people in charge that actually understand that we need immigrants. Immigrants is the lifeblood of this country. It revitalizes the country and makes it better, not makes it worse.
I wonder who that's going to be. Who would be in charge that would have a better position?
Honestly, it probably should be somebody like Julian Castro, the former mayor of San Antonio.
Sure.
It probably should be somebody who is an immigrant to this country,
sure,
that understands the thing. You could say it from anybody, an immigrant from Africa, an immigrant from Southeast Asia.
Wait a minute, but are you saying Julian Castro is an immigrant?
I believe so. Hold on, let me check. My spidey sense
because he ran for president, though, right?
Oh no, he's not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's a law. Because you can't be an immigrant and run for
that's
president.
Right. You're right. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
But representation definitely still matters when we're talking about.
Could AOC check that box?
That's a good question. I believe she is also natural born. But
I mean, as far as being sensitive to the importance of immigrants, as far as
yes,
impact on
certainly,
here's my problem. I do have a problem with AOC, and it's not her fault. No. Hold on.
Dave, is your finger on the button?
No, don't do it.
We're having technical difficulties, folks. Sorry. It looks like we only have room for 3. Now I can't hear you. Now I actually am having technical difficulties, but that might just be me. Oops,
hear you.
Okay, good. It's not me.
Okay.
So AOC is very promising, and I like she's taking the future of the party, but she's also very young. And she needs a little more experience, in my opinion, but she has all the right adrenaline push to do the right thing, and that's my only complaint about her. That I think that she's a little young, and she's dealing with people who are based boomers and older in government, and it's hard. We live in a type of society where the old control everything. And so my generation, and I think Flav, are you in your 40s as well?
I am 42. I'll be 43 in early September.
I'm a year older than you, sir.
Okay.
So we're all. And Katie, I didn't ask if you were, but I assume you're in the same age range.
45.
All right.
And Vash, who was on earlier, was born in the same year I was.
Good. So we're all Generation X, right? By the time we take control, she is still dealing with people that are older than her, right? And have a different set of values. And she hasn't learned to negotiate that divide very well. She's very good at forming coalitions, but she needs to also appeal to the people that may not naturally be on her side.
Sure.
Because that's compromise is the way of the House and the Senate, and
that's a good point right there.
you know, and I hate to say that because it sounds like I'm a traitor, but it's true.
Now, let me ask you a question. On the other side, do the Republicans put forth people who have less experience than she does?
Yes and no. Republicans represent a type of staunch traditionalism that almost requires them to put up their older because they respect and view older people as knowing what they're doing. Is that 100% true?
Wait a minute.
Probably not.
Except for Trump, right?
Trump is old.
Zero.
Trump is old.
No. I'm talking about experience.
Yeah, usually, but they gave up a lot. They gave up a lot of their background. A lot of their conservative ideals was thrown out the window with Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, right. There's a contingency of conservative people that are anti-Trump.
They're and they're very hardcore. Very hardcore.
Of course, when it comes to VPs, I mean, we've had people like Sarah Palin who, you know, we've had some. Actually, come to think of it, no, because we've had Ben Carson's and Herman Cain. We actually have had a litany of people with low to no experience on the.
And look how that's turned out.
Yeah, well, they finally got one in though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's true.
Trump, he's not as much of a surprise as people think. They've been trying to put these unqualified, people in for a long time.
I think it's a rabid shame that the conservatism of America is basically in tatters right now. Because
wait a minute. When you say unqualified, what are you speaking to as qualifications? Because for the most part, right, our presidents have either come from, being governors or being senators.
Yeah. So right. Ben Carson.
Sarah Palin was a governor.
Well, Sarah Palin was a governor. For how long, and B, it was widely considered that she was vastly unqualified. I don't know if it's because Alaska is considered just not big time, or that she admitted that she couldn't point to anything that she was actually reading, which was vastly concerning and embarrassing.
I was just saying, what are we calling qualifications? So I get it. I do get it.
To be the governor when they was trying to get a pipeline through Alaska.
Pretty much. She was able to lay that groundwork.
Here's one thing I want to throw in really quick on this line, because I think I may have been making a mistake. I've been saying, hey, Obama was only in for 6 years before he became president, but I read that he actually had 11 years of experience before president.
Yeah, he was
senator for 6 years.
A state senator in Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay. And
he's an unusual character, not because the obvious fact that he was the first African American president. He was unusual because Daley, the mayors, the family of mayors in Chicago, they really did not like him and didn't support him. So it was amazing that he made it to the state representing senators instead of the state senators of the area.
So what's the 11 years? What's the 6 years versus the 11?
6 years, meaning that he was a senator for 6 years in our U.S. Congress, and then the rest of it is time in the state Senate in Illinois.
Okay, gotcha. So I've been going around quoting he only had 6 years of experience, and AOC will have almost as much by the time 2024.
I think she's going to run anyway, to be completely honest with you.
Wait, you really think so?
I think she's going to try. I don't think she's ready.
You think so?
Let me be very honest. I don't think she's ready because
that would be amazing.
But she is going to try, and she's going to unite the left behind her.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think the smart thing for her to do, even if she can't win, is to run.
Is to try. Yeah.
So
and it puts her out there, right?
Because it raises her name ID.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And then they start taking her seriously. Then that sets you up for
for
Ronald
4 years.
Reagan.
4 years.
Ronald Reagan didn't win the first time he ran for president.
Exactly.
He went against his party and primaried the sitting president, which is probably not the best idea.
Okay.
But he came back 4 years later with name ID and recognition around the country, which greatly benefited him.
Well, she should certainly go against the party and run against Biden if he wins.
I would love to see her platform. I've been on this bent where I've been saying, hey, let's get more and more radical while we're talking about universal health care, Medicare for all, abolishing police now. It wasn't the discussion when I started this bent, but while we're talking about all these things, getting rid of people's payment for, college
their school, all that stuff. Yeah.
Why don't we start talking about social housing for all? And, when I first started really feeling AOC, I was already feeling her, but lo and behold, after I'd been pushing this, and I was in Washington working for a leg of our organization, Working Families Party, and some of the people that we were bringing in to the fold, one of them was a young gentleman who was like, oh, I have a meeting with AOC. And I was like, yo, see where she stands on social housing, like bring it up and blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, not to say that he did it and this was why it came out, but months later, she came out with some strong statements on social housing for all. In other words, like free housing for all. And when I say it, it sounds, I know some folks are probably like,
I'll be very honest. I'm a center left guy, right? And the reason I'm a center left guy is because some of what the right says, because nobody can be wrong 100% of the time, and I mix it with left ideology to get things done.
Yeah, but I think housing is one of those things. It's a need. It should be like a right? These are basic human needs: food, clothing, transportation, education, medicine. Like these are things that we should take back from the hands of uber capitalists, and we should make it accessible. Like in the UK,
the thing is that capitalism allows for all these things to happen. It's just that what's happening in America is the crony and what's called vulture or crony capitalism has taken over the very noble and hardworking idea of capitalism. I hate to be the last guy on the left to say that capitalism works. It's a great distributor. It does create fortunes and acceleration for regular people. The problem is for regular people, because basically you can't count on your job anymore to give you a pension. Most jobs don't provide pensions. So we do. Well, we take our 401k and we take investment advice when we start getting to that point that we can, and we start creating an internal economy, every person's profile. And that actually is a wise idea, because that future as well. You take Joe and Martha's retirement fund and you use it to business future. So I hate my education is twofold. I have double major in criminal justice, in the economics, like AOC. So I've advised all my life that the revolution doesn't come away from capitalism; it comes inside of it. And
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last thing you said. The revolution doesn't come.
The revolution from outside of capitalism. It's not it's not anarchy. It's not any of these things. But things are convenient for when you're talking about a complex subject like ethics inside of liberal economics. And
what you're kind of saying is we have to learn how to or effectively exploit the benefits of capitalism.
Bingo.
Rather than highlight or continue to be subject to the negative aspects of capitalism.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We need laws. Go ahead, Flavius. I'm sorry.
I think we've been trying to do that for a long time, and my statement wasn't this grand indictment of capitalism, though I should indict capitalism.
You could. It's very possible.
That would be a different conversation. But my statement was simply, we should take things that we need out of that realm of hyper capitalism and crony capitalism. You and I would agree that the level of greed from developers and like the real estate,
Sure.
industrial complex is ridiculous. And imagine what we could do as citizens if we weren't chained to our high rents and all of these cities that we live in. And even in smaller towns, I mean, everywhere, rents have skyrocketed everywhere, where wages have just stagnated, and it's ridiculous. And when we see examples like places like, the UK that used to have socialized housing, I forgot what they called it, before Margaret Thatcher kind of threw it out of the window. These were great examples of like really nice housing. We're not talking about projects or anything like that, talking about nice housing. And when AOC spoke of it a couple of years ago, to my surprise, she was comparing it to like housing that government officials often have, that they don't have to pay for. And there's just a lot more out there that's possible and plausible. And when we rethink these things, why have we been subjecting ourselves to an industry that just really has us, by the balls that way? And we're just spending all of our money on rent or mortgage or what have you, and it's just not necessary. And there are other systems out there where we could say, now people finally agree. Even in the U.S., even rednecks are agreeing with Medicare for all or universal health care. Let's start the conversation.
You got you. Keep your finger close to that button.
Let's rednecks. That's a phrase that people are pretty comfortable with. So let's start the conversation on social housing now. Let's push the envelope like Bernie pushed the envelope and made us think, oh yeah, why are we letting these banks rip us off with ATM fees and all of that when that's my money that they're charging me for every time I go to that machine? Why are we accepting this? So it's the same thing I want us to think about when we think about housing, because I looked at housing trends and through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, housing was like very reasonable. Even in places like New York City, the average price for a 2-bedroom was like $350 all the way through the 70s. Then in the 80s, it skyrocketed to $1,700 on average for a 2-bedroom. Who knows what it is now? So almost overnight, prices skyrocketed and folks didn't really ask why. And there are reasons like rent control and different things like that were gotten rid of. But we've been living as slaves to a system that we never really questioned how we got here. And we're just complicit and complacent in this system that's like screwing us left or right. When we could be free, we could be creative, and we could be putting more back into the economy with free funds,
I have to think about it, to be completely honest. I haven't heard much about the housing issue, but basically what I would say is that I would like to put the ownership back in the hands of the people and stop the trend towards renting. That would be my solution, because that way that creates generational wealth that you pass on to your children, that Ish passes on to his children, that KD passes on to his children, and that creates momentum as you up the ladder of in the economy, in the scale. Because there's nothing, because liquid assets are great, but unfortunately in our society, What really matters is the big stuff. What do you own and what's doing for you?
How do we get there if people can't afford it, or how do we get there in a place like New York where space is limited, and developers rule even much more than space being limited? How do we get rid of the whole system? That
we impose harsher penalties on the people that break the free market ideas.
They're not
putting forward.
But see, they're not necessarily breaking anything. The system is set up in an unfair way in the first place. They're not. Developers aren't necessarily breaking any laws. They're playing the system.
That's the problem, that we don't have equal forces at work with developers. The worst people I met in my political career was not the gangsters, the street criminals that I met, because I met plenty of those. Okay. But it was literally the land developers. Land developers by far, people like Lennar, Tri-City, people that huge complexes of McMansion, which by the way I live in now because there's no other choice. They squeezed out all the small housing builders in states like Arizona. Now I live in one of the houses because there is no choice. There's no choice.
When you say those are the worst people, I 100% believe it. If I was creating a comic book, those would be the villains, and the good guys would never go up against street level thugs. They would take down they would take down institutions, right?
Yeah, and that's what creates real crime, is those institutions. Yeah. I have always said the biggest threat in America is organized crime. Not the guy stealing bread for his family or selling drugs in order to pay for the milk for his own babies. It's the guys who are organizing large level criminal activities in over a type of situation they gain control over an area. Those are the people you need to watch out for, more than terrorists or anything else, because nothing can corrupt your life like one of the people in it.
Right. Or like when you talk about real wealth versus generational wealth, and I mean real generational wealth, right? Like,
absolutely,
those who have long money, right? And I'm just kind of speaking to something that you guys are saying. I might be on a different tangent, right? Like, you get people who profiteer, who can make money off of the things that other people can't fathom, right? Like war profiteering, for example.
Absolutely.
Another example would be, literally hustling houses or land, right? Like, you're talking about long paper, the housing industry, even like if you look at public housing, right? If you follow the chain, it's attached to a corporation that's attached to, that's Banks, under another umbrella. That's, you know what I mean? So
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Those
right. Like, you're literally in it's comparable to crime because you're hustling. You've cornered the market on the industry. You're doing whatever it takes to make sure that nobody else can buy into this program or into this industry, right? And you control the industry. It's kind of like what I was saying the other day when we look at education, right? Like, no one is teaching you how to purchase a house in school. You actually have to go to the creditor to learn how to purchase a house. You understand what I'm saying?
That's like going to the shark to see how well you fit in his mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always said that the first place we need to start, guys, is education.